Today's lesson, we're going to talk about ellipse. Before we go over ellipse, let's recall from the standard form of equation of the circle. So the circle, if we have equations look like that, we know that this is going to give you your center point, right? So this is the standard form where H and K is going to be center points and R is going to be a radius. So in this case, you're going to have negative 3, so your X value on the center is going to be positive 3 and Y value will be negative 1. So positive 3, negative 1 will be the center points. 4, so that's going to be square root of 2. So then your radius is going to be 2. So that's what we recall from the circle. So we're going to use very similar method in the ellipse. One thing you need to add to the circle information is going to be the focus point. You have a focus points right here and there, right? From your circle, ellipse going upside down, your focus point is going to be your major axis. And we know that sum of those distance from two fixed points is constant. So what it means is if we wanted to find, let's say this is the two focus points, and if we pick this point right here, sum of these two distance is going to be constant as any other point on your ellipse. So if I measure from here to there, or here to these two focus points, sum of any points from your ellipse to the focus points should be constant. And it's a verticals are on the major axis. Well, that depends on which numbers are bigger, right? If your X is bigger, Y is bigger, or A is bigger, B is bigger, right? Depends on. It could be vertical or horizontal or vertical. And focus points, both sides are on the major axis also. And this is the format, right? How to find the C's. And there is a graph for it, right? So if A first or bigger, then it's horizontal. B is bigger first, it will be vertical. So let's look at example 1. We have x squared over 16 plus y squared over 9 equals to 1. If you wanted to rewrite this into the square format, 16 is going to be equals to 4 squared, 9 is 3 squared. So your A value is 4, B value is 3. And we can see A is bigger than B, so this is going to be a horizontal shape of ellipse. Let's try to find the center. This case, you don't have any numbers attached to X and Y, so your center is going to be 0, 0. Your vertex is going to be 4, 0 because your focus is going to be on x-axis. it means your minor axis is going to be the y value 0, 3. And how do we find the C focus points? Is using C equals to square root of A squared minus B squared. So C squared become A squared minus B squared. So then that will give you 4 squared minus 3 squared, which is plus minus of 16 minus 9. So that's plus minus square root of 7. When you plug in square root of 7 on the calculator, you will get something close to 2.67. So if we graph, it's going to be ellipse, horizontal ellipse. So it will look like that. And then your focus point is going to be 2.65, so it will be somewhere right here. And that's how you're going to graph the ellipse. Let's try another one. We have 25 x squared plus 9y equals 225. First thing we wanted to do is dividing both sides by 225. Let's divide both sides by 225. Why do we do that? So we can make one side equals to 1. And this gives you 1, right? And you will end up getting x squared over 9 plus y squared over 25 equal 1. And you can rewrite this in a square form, so it will be 3 squared and 5 squared. Your A is 3, your B is 5, because A come from the x value, B come from the y values. And you see the y value being bigger, so this is going to be vertical, right? Vertical ellipse. So then your center is going to be 0, 0 again. Why? Because you don't have any other number attached to it. Next example, we're going to see when center is not 0, 0, so you can do the comparison. And then your vertex is going to be on the vertical, so the one with the y value will be B, so it will be 0 and 5, or 0 and negative 5. Because the distance from the center to y value is 5. And minor axis is going to be x-axis, so it will be 0 plus 3 or 0 minus 3, so it will be 3, 0, negative 3, and 0. Your C is going to be plus minus square root of B squared minus A squared. So that will give you square root of 16, which is plus minus 4. So if we wanted to graph this ellipse, it will be 5, negative 5, 3, and negative 3. Draw the ellipse, passing those points. And then focus point will be 4. So if we're looking at the center points being different than origin, 0, 0, your equation will be look like this, where you have another attachment to the x value and y value. This is going to give you different center points. If you don't have these attachments, like the other problem, we just look at it. It was just x squared by itself. That's going to give you 0, which is the origin as your center point. And rest of them are same. You just need to change the value from the center point, right? So let's look at example 3. So the value with x is going to be a, because this is going to be same as 4 square and 5 square. Your a is 4, b is going to be 5. And look like your b value is greater than a value. So you can tell you're going to have a vertical as the major axis. And your ellipse is going to be vertical ellipse. So if we wanted to find the center, because this point, -3 give you +3, plus 2 give you -2 as the center value. So it will give you 3 and -2. You know that this is going to be vertical. So vertex is going to be adding, subtracting 5 from the -2 value. So it will give you 3 and -2 to ±5, which is going to be 3. When you're adding 5, it will be 3. When you're subtracting 5, it will be -7. So that will be those 2 points. And minor is going to be ±4 to your 3 value. So that gives you 3 ± 4 and -2, which you're going to get. Adding will make it 7. Subtracting make it -1. And we know that focus points, you can get it from ± square root of b square minus a square, which is ± square root of 9, that is 3. So when you graph it, your center point on the graph is going to be 3 and -2, and go up 3 and 3, down 3 and -7, sideways 7 and -2, and it will be -1 and -2. So it will be somewhere right here. And draw the ellipse. And your focus point is going to be -3, +3. So it will be right here, 1, 3 and 1, and 3 and 5. If you're asking how do I find that focus point, you're adding ±3 into your center from 3, -2, ±3, right? So that's how you get 3, +1. Let's erase it. And 3, -5. Let's try one more. This one right here, your center is going to be from here. So that gives you -1 and 2. Your A and B is there. So before you square it, your A is 5 and B is 3, and your A is bigger. So this time you're going to see horizontal ellipse. So X value is the one it's going to change, right? And your vertex is going to be adding to X or subtracting to X. That will give me 4, 2, negative 6, 2. And the minor, then you're going to plus minus 3 to the Y value from the center. So that gives you negative 1 and 5, negative 1 and negative 1. Your focus points plus minus A squared minus B squared. So it'll be 25 minus 9, which gives me square root of 16. That's plus minus 4. So this one, you're going to add it into your X value, right? To the center. Which will give you 3, 2, negative 5, 2. Now you have all the points. Let's graph it. So your center is going to be negative 1 and 2. And then vertex is going to be 4 and 2, negative 6 and 2. And minor axis is going to be negative 1 and 5, negative 1 and 1. Draw the ellipse. And your focus point is going to be 3 and 2, negative 5 and 2. So this is how you're going to graph when your equation is standard form of ellipse. What about next example when your equation is not a graphing form, right? What do we need to do? The first thing you need to do when the form of equation is not a graphing form, you don't have all the X values together, and one side is not equal to 1, no fraction forms. You need to make it standard form, the graphing form, right? That's the first thing you're going to do. And after that, we already know how to graph or find all that information, right? So let's see if we can do that. We can make a standard form. We have 3x squared plus 7y squared. Oh, so instead of just copying the value, I'm going to put all the x together, y together. So I will have 6x, and then you have plus 7y squared minus 28y, and let's put number without the variable on the other side. And then from this 2, we wanted to factor 3 out, so I can make leading coefficient 1. And then, so this becomes 2. And you're going to add C. And how do you build C? Your C is B over 2 squared. So your B being 2, you're going to do 2 over 2. So it will be 2 over 2 squared. That's 1 squared, so it will be 1. So you're adding 1 to make these 3 terms perfect square form. And you do the same thing for the y value. So from this 2, in order to make your leading coefficient positive, you're going to factor positive 7 out. then you end up getting y squared minus 4y. And you use the same method to create new c for y value. Your b is 4, so it will be 4 over 2 square, which is 2 square will be 4. So you're going to add 4 here. By adding 1 here, adding 4 here, you just change the given problems. So what you need to do is you do whatever you did on the left side. This side, you do exactly same thing on the other side, so we will not change the given problem. So we had negative 10 before. So adding this 1 here, basically when you multiply this 2, you get 3. So you add 3. Adding 4 here inside our parenthesis, you're basically at 28. Because when you open the parenthesis, it will be 7 times 4. So you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So you're adding 3 and adding 28. That will give me this side 3 times, and this one now you can factor and make it perfect square as x plus 1 square. And then you have this one right here, perfect square of y minus 2 square. The other side, add them up, I get 21. Now we're going to divide both sides by 21 to make on the right side 1, right? This is going to be 1. So I have 1, and that is going to be 7, and that is going to be 3. So I have x plus 1 square over 7 plus y minus 2 square over 3 equal 1. Now you can get your center, your A and B, to find center, vertex, and focus point. So looking at that, your center is going to be negative 1, positive 2. Your vertex, because your A is bigger than B, it's going to be vertical, right? Horizontal, right? So the changes is going to be on X. So it will be negative 1. How do we find A is going to be square root of 7. B is going to be square root of 3, right? So it will be plus minus square root of 7 to x, which will give you negative 1 plus square root of 7 with 2, and negative 1 minus square root of 7 with 2. And then you're going to plus minus square root of 3 to the y values for the minor acid. So that gives you negative 1, 2, plus square root of 3, negative 1 with 2 minus square root of 3. And then your focus points is going to be plus minus square root of A and minus square of B gives you plus minus square root of 4. That's plus minus 2. And you make changes on X, right? So it will be 1 plus minus 2 and 2. That gives you 1 and 2, negative 3 and 2. And that's how you're going to find your values. Okay, the next example, we're going to look at backward. With the given informations like vertices and focus points, we wanted to see if we can find the equations, right? So what I wanted to do is find the center point first. In order to find the center points, using this vertex, let's see if we can graph it. Because center is a halfway of those 2 points, right? So if this is negative 4, this is positive 4, and this is 2, this is your vertex. It means that your center is going to be right in the middle, which is going to be 0 and 2. Right? This distance from here to here and here to here should be the same. So right in the middle of those 2 points is going to be 0 and 2, and that's going to be center. And we know that format of horizontal ellipse is x minus h square over a square plus y minus k square over b square equals to 1. And since we found the center, we can replace it. And this is going to be y minus 2, right? Square over b square equals to 1. What else do we know? We know that your a value is going to be 4, right? This is the a value, distance 4. So that's going to be 4. Your a is 4, so here is going to be a square will be 16. Do we know b? Well, we don't have minor axis point, so we don't know that yet. What else is given? We have c given, which is that, right? So using b square equals to a square minus c square, we should be able to find our v value, right? So your v is going to be plus minus square root of a square minus b square. So this is b, so when you square it, it will be just 15, which is plus minus square root of 1, that is just 1. And your b have to be greater than 0, so you're going to use b equals to positive 1. That means from here, we can get your b value 1. And that will be the equation we're looking for. So make sure we know how to find all this information with the graph, no matter what shapes of equation given for ellipse, right? And we also need to make sure with the other information given, we should know how to find equations.